Hey there, good afternoon, and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. And one of those other forms of rock music is hard rock. So, for my Wednesday night favorites, which is tonight, we're going to be doing the top 25, my top 25 favorite hard rock groups. Now, I've done one on hard rock albums, and now I'm doing one on hard rock groups. So this was not overly difficult to pick the order. The difficulty came with which groups to include, because a lot of these groups, like so many other groups, are not just hard rock bands. They have other forms of music that mix in with them. So I guess it's really dependent on a couple things. It's dependent on what era of their music you liked, or what type of part of their music did you like. And in my case, it was the hard rock part. That's why they're in here. And it also is dependent upon how much of their music is actually hard rock. You know, there's a couple bands. I was going to include Black Sabbath in the list because a lot of their early stuff, while having metal elements to it, also had a lot of hard rock elements to it as well. I thought about including them, but I don't think of Black Sabbath as a hard rock band. I never have. To me, they're a heavy metal band, so I'm not including them here. And there's a few other bands like that. Styx is a very hard rockish band, but they have a lot of art rock and progressive rock and some pop rock, a lot of other elements mixed into their music. And I don't listen to Styx because I think of them as a hard rock band. I listen to them because I think of them as a kind of art rock, prog rock band. So they're one of those bands that I don't listen to for that hard rock reason, so I disqualified them as well. And I'm just giving a couple of examples. There's other bands that I disqualified for various reasons. So you're going to get bands that I primarily listen to because of their hard rock songs. That's what made me popular. Now, this band that will go first, you will, there's going to be some arguments about that one. But anyways, there'll probably be some arguments about most of these, but that's fine. It's my list. It's my list of groups that I put on here because of why I listen to them. So I'm going to I tried my best to weed out the ones who I don't think really belong here. The ones who I think have a legitimate claim on it, I put them in, and if they had other parts of their music that weren't necessarily hard rock, I'm just going to explain why, and that's all I can do. So we're going to normally do this the way we normally do all these kind of ranking things, which is we'll go from my least favorite group, in this case, to my most favorite group of the hard rock groups. And then I'll give some honorable mentions at the end. And I've got about 6 of those. I wrote down 6. I could have put quite a few more, but I just chose 6 at random that I thought. I tried to give some of the newer bands I've discovered in this genre a little bit of attention here too. So I included 2 or 3 of them from Ben's album challenge on here that I think are bands that are going to have some impact with me. Okay, and so then again, so this is what we normally do, is we go from least favorite to most favorite, and then at the end I'll reiterate them all in the correct order from first to last to 25th, and then I'll give the honorable mentions. And I've included all the props except for the first 2 because I don't have any albums by them, which is not because I don't. They're just not easy to find. So the first band out is called Toad. Now, I wish I had a prop for this band because I think it's a great album, that first album of theirs. It was one of the albums introduced to me from another channel. I listened to it maybe half a dozen times now with my headphones. This is a super album. The band Toad came out. I think this album is from 1970 or 71, somewhere in there. Pretty heavy stuff. Some really good riffing on this, on their debut album. And a band I quite like a lot and wished I could find their stuff. I think I probably have to go online and order it through probably Laser's Edge they may have it, or I may have to look around to find it. It's a difficult album to find. The next band out is a Canadian band who I liked a lot when they first came out, and I still like them a lot. But it's difficult again because they never really kind of achieved any kind of status as far as international status, and not really a great deal even within their own country, which is Canada. But for me, they were a great band, had a lot of really heavy songs that I liked a lot, and that's Goddo, Toronto-based band. So I don't have props for either of those two, but from here on in, we're propped out, so to speak. Okay, so the next band up, and I did it. I can't believe I did it. I stacked them the way they were supposed to be, and then for some reason I thought I had to put them in the right order, and now they're all upside down. So we're gonna go with the stack anyways. So the next band out is a band that I've only been listening to for about a year, but have known about for God, I would say at least a decade, maybe longer. I've seen some videos with different people doing stuff on them, and I've actually bought my first one. It's currently in my playlist. I bought it I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. It's been in my playlist for, where is it on? Yeah, it's probably about 4 months it's been in my playlist, and it's growing with me. It's probably in my top 5 albums on that playlist right now, and I listen to it all the time. And that's this band, Hawkwind. This is a great album, this particular one. Wasn't the one I was looking for to buy first. There was one other one that I really wanted to get, but I couldn't find it. Or I did find it, but it was way too pricey, so I got this one, which was recommended. And just get up as close as I can so you can really see it. Try to get the angle right. So this is Hawkwind's Hall of the Mountain Grill. Sorry, I was drawing a blank and I couldn't remember what the name was. But the band itself, I've listened to some stuff from other albums off of them and really like them a lot. Some people would probably classify these guys as a space rock band, and they wouldn't be wrong. They're probably a space rock band. This was the one group that I almost took out. Of all of the bands that are on here, I was going to take them out. But there's enough hard rock stuff on here that's what I'm into them for right now. So I decided to give them the attention here today. And so they come in at number 23. But probably more of a space rock band than a hard rock band. But definitely some heavy metal and hard rock elements on their albums. A lot of them, actually. Okay, so that's number 3. I'm going to find a place to stack these where they won't fall over. There you go. So the next one up, actually I should just, we'll just do this and then restack them so that they're close by. The next one up is a band that this album particularly I've been listening to, was on my playlist not too long ago. I just took it off. Has some hard rock elements to it, also has some kind of poppy elements to it, a little bit of strange rock, if there's such a category. Good album. This is a good album, this one. The rest of this stuff's pretty good too. I'm growing in my admiration for his music, and that is this guy. Let's get up close here. Alice Cooper. Great theatrical thing. So he may fall into the also into the realm of art rock or art rock or glam rock, maybe. Both of those categories he certainly fits into, but for my purposes today, he's in the hard rock category because of the songs that I like best by him at this point in time are hard rock songs. So at number 22 comes Alice Cooper. At number 21, at 21 is this band, Nazareth. Expect No Mercy. Now, most of the really good stuff by these guys is really heavy music. There's a nice shot on this particular album. There's a shot of all the guys. Can you see that? And then you got one more guy at the back here. So really kind of a heavy hard rock. It's maybe bordering on metal almost, Nazareth. So great band. So they come in at number 21. Number 20 has been in, I've done a few videos on them lately. Definitely a hard rock band, I think. Yes, they do have some poppy elements to their music, and yes, they do release quite a few ballads. No doubt about it. I don't think they're a heavy metal band. They do have a couple songs bordering on that, but pretty much they're a hard rock band. And this is April Wine. This is one of their albums. Yeah, so definitely a band that, for me, I've always thought of as a hard rock band, but they do have some poppy elements and some ballads, which really kind of gives them that poppy elements to their music. So number 19, I do not have a prop for, but I put my Eric Clapton in here so I wouldn't forget. So anyways, we're talking about Cream, of course. This is a band, they have several albums that I like. When I'm out there buying albums, I often have a limit to what I can get. I have a budget, or I have a certain kind of idea of what I want to get or what type of music I want to get this week. And sometimes if there's a couple spots open for a different album, they've been in that challenge to get it, but they've lost out every single time. There's something else that I'd rather have. That's just what had happened. It wasn't, not because I don't like their music. And of course they're much, many people consider them to be a more bluesy or jazz oriented band, and they both have both of those elements in their music, no doubt about it. But for my purposes, the songs I like the best are the hard rock songs on it, and so that's why I chose them for this spot, number 19. Number 20, definitely to me a hard rock band, but also a kind of, I might say that they're kind of a little bit of symphonic on their music, I think. And they also have a lot of kind of pop hits as well. We're talking about this album, well, not this album, this group, Boston. I chose this album as a display because most people are familiar with this album. So this is a really good album as well, one of the best in history, I think. This band could have been so much more, Just too much time between albums, and just, their albums just, it started at the top of the heap and just kind of went, and just never matched out, but still good enough to be in my top 25. Boston, great band, great music, number 18. So now we're going to move up a little bit, number 17. This was another album, or not an album, I keep saying album, but it's actually another group that I had some serious debates about whether to include them or not, just because they're all over the board as far as they're one of the hardest bands to put in a genre. Art rock for sure, some prog rock, absolutely, some disco, some pop music, some bluesy stuff. Like, they just do everything. But the songs I like best, again, are their more hard rock songs, and this album, of course, would show that more than any of them. And this is Queen. So Queen comes in at number 17. Definitely their hard rock elements are really strong and put this band up there for me. Okay, the next group up, they got some pop stuff and a lot of ballads and kind of sugary sweet in some cases. But the stuff I like best by them, which I decided not to use that album as a prop because I don't want to take it out of my playlist and screw it up and have to figure out where it goes again. So I just chose a different album, and let's get Aerosmith. So me, Aerosmith has a lot of really hard stuff that I really like a lot. They're definitely not metal. They're not, to me, they're not even close, but they're definitely hard rock, and a lot of hard rock stuff on them. Yeah, they do have their poppy sugar sweet stuff, and they do have their 1.5 billion ballads, but the stuff that's hard is hard and it's good. So, number 15, most people know this group as a pop band because all of the radio stuff they do, and they got about six really big songs that are all radio stuff. They're really kind of poppy. But I know this band is a hard rock band, and they've got a lot of really kind of heavy stuff. Their deeper cuts don't sound anything like the stuff you hear on the radio. And that's this band, The Sweet. And this album, more than anything, demonstrates that. The two hits on here, Ballroom Blitz and shit, why am I always drawing a blank? Must be old AJ. The Fox. What's the name of it? Can't even see it here. Oh, Fox on the Run. Huh? Anyways, those two are kind of poppy, kind of, if you want, radio-friendly stuff, kind of big hits type things. But the other tracks on here, the other 8 tracks on here, heavy stuff, really good stuff. So The Sweet. And it's the same with a lot of their albums are like that, just really strong, heavy stuff that just really wasn't what was played on the radio. That's all it was. Okay, then we get to the number 14 band. The Sweet was number 15. Coming at number 14, Triumph. This album probably encapsulates that heavy element. So this is more of a hard rock album. Just a Game and Progressions of Power and maybe even Allied Forces. A little bit more progressive in their music on those albums. But the heavy stuff on this and the heavy stuff on some of those albums, to me, classifies them as a hard rock band. Yeah, they do have some heavy metal elements into their music. There's no doubt about it. There's a couple of songs, really heavy stuff. And the guitar playing lends that itself to that as well. But I still think that they're a hard rock band, and so they're coming in at number 15 for me. Okay, now we're going to do the other stack. That's just the first stack. I just got to rearrange them slightly because I had them in the right order, and then for some reason I thought they had to go 1 to 12, and then I realized, well, how am I going to pick them up if they're at the bottom of the stack? Yeah, physics was never my strong suit, although I would like to think that it could be. Okay, so there we go. Now we're set. Okay, so the top 13 or so pretty strong groups, I think. You know, your first 25 to from 25th to 14, pretty good, solid stuff. The top 2 or 3 really good, but now we're getting into the really good stuff here. And we're going to start with this band who I just recently got this particular album. This is probably borderline metal album too. Thin Lizzy's Thunder and Lightning. At least the first couple of tracks, pretty heavy stuff. But I don't really think of Thin Lizzy as a heavy metal band. To me, they're a hard rock band. A hard rockin' band that has some bluesy stuff in their music as well. Yeah, great band. Fantastic. Can't go wrong with Thin Lizzy, that's for sure. Probably a term underrated, but probably underexposed is probably the better term. They just didn't get the kind of exposure that they should have, or they didn't have the right management set up, or whatever it was that didn't get their music out there, because their music's fantastic. Definitely rates up there with just about everybody else. Next out of the gate, we have this band, which I love this particular album quite a bit. This band has one commonality with Thin Lizzy. I could have brought out the 87 album and we would have known it. It's John Sykes, right? John Sykes played on both of those albums and really brought up the heaviness on the Thin Lizzy album and as well on the 87 album. But this band, to me, is a really hard rock band with some blues elements, at least early on, and then more poppy elements as they went along, and commercial sounding music. But definitely a great hard rock band. They come in at number 12. So number 11, they have quite a bit of metal element to their music. If you want to call them a metal band, I'm not going to argue with you. They may be a metal band, but I think of them as more of a hard rock band, and that's Dio. This is a great album. Here I have a couple of their albums now. But some really hard rock, some great guitar on here from Vivian Campbell on this particular album, and the other one that I have as well. But definitely a hard rock band that I love quite a bit. Of course, Ronnie James Dio is second to none in vocalist as far as I'm concerned. So coming in number 11, Ronnie James Dio, or Dio if you prefer. Okay, so now we're getting into the cream of the crop, the top 10. Yeah, these top 10 are all pretty strong. The top 5 are very strong. So anyways, we'll do the number. So coming in number 10, a band that definitely has some blues and some kind of metal elements to their music. So on the low end, they're kind of bluesy. On the upper end, they're kind of metalish. But for the most part, they're a hard rock band. And this album incorporates that really well. Deep Purple. Great band. Lots of really heavy stuff on their albums. Most of the stuff I like the most is the heavier stuff. There are a couple, not ballads, but you might want to say a little proggy type songs with some proggy elements to it that I like as well. See, I should really kind of separate this stack so I don't end up with a stack on the floor. I should just put them on the floor so they don't end up there. Okay, next is a band that has a lot of elements to their music. They are bluesy. They are poppy for sure. They have some kind of spacey elements to them and some progressive elements to their music. They have all the things. And no album sounds the same. No one of their 2 albums. Maybe the first 3 kind of have a lot of similarity, but after that, it's pretty much different on every album. And I chose this one because it was the oldest one that I have and the one I've had the longest in my introduction to the band. But we're talking about Blue Oyster Cult here. The hard rock elements to their music are really good. I think they're that's what binds the group. That's what I think binds all their albums, is they're a hard rock band. Funny though that they've always called them a metal group, but I never really think of Blue Oyster Cult as metal. I mean, they do have some kind of dark themes to some of their albums, which might lend, like this particular album. It's kind of a darker theme, and so it kind of lends itself to that metal ideology. But to be honest with you, this is a pretty solid hard rock album, bordering like almost on metal. So, Blue Oyster Cult coming in at number 9, a band on the rise with me, so to speak. The next album, I debated about this. They definitely have a lot of blues and folky influence, especially early on. And later they became like almost a bubblegum poppy band. But the stuff I listen to is the heavier stuff, a lot of the heavier stuff. And it's hard rock, and very hard rock. So I chose this album because this was the album that I think incorporates the hard rock element the best. So we have Heart here coming in at number 8. Do they belong on this list? Some of you would say no, they're a blues. Early on, they're a blues kind of folky group, and then later on, they're a pop band, so they don't belong in this category. Well, Barracuda is definitely not bluesy, nor is it poppy. And it's one of the best tracks on here. So the stuff that I like the best, Barracuda, Crazy on You, Straight On, Magic Man, even It Up. They've got enough heavy stuff here that I think they qualify for. And then they did the song Rock and Roll on here as well on this particular album. Anyways, so a very strong hard rock band with lots of different elements to the music. And you're going to find that's common with hard rock bands, because many hard rock bands have had to change their style to keep themselves going. Now we get to the number 7 band, which definitely has a serious pop element to the music, and early on had a metal element to the music, and I chose that album. Van Halen won here, but Van Halen is the number 7 band. Definitely, this album is borderline heavy metal. In the day, it was probably called heavy metal. The second album, the third album, the fourth album have a lot of bluesy kind of folky or different elements to their music, but a lot of hard rock stuff to their music too. And so to me, they're a hard rock band that's bordering, almost bordering. But you know, then you get to Diver Down and 1984, and definitely a poppy element in their music. So by Van Halen, they come in here at number 7 on my hard rock list. Okay, so we're down to the last 6. This is a band who many feel were heavy metal. I'm not going to argue that, but definitely hard rock, bordering on heavy metal. Rainbow, and this particular album crucifies that. You know, like this may be considered for many the first real heavy metal album. It might be. Definitely a hard rock album. And stuff on the other albums is pretty hard rock too. They do have some poppy elements in their music as they go along here, like as they got further along in their music, but the stuff I like, again, is pretty hard, and so I put them here in the hard rock category. Okay, so the top 5 for me, really strong. The next 3 really have, there's no doubt to me they're all hard rock bands. Yeah, they all, because they've been around so long, for at least 2 of them anyways, have been around so long, there's going to be some elements of different music in their music. That's just the way it is. So the next one out, number 5, Bachman Turner Overdrive. I chose this album. I think this is their best album as what they call my prop. But most of the stuff I like by BTO is very hard rock. Yeah, they do have some bluesy stuff on the lower end, and there's some kind of poppy stuff, and there's also some kind of 50-ish sounding music on some of their earlier albums. But for the most part, I think they're a hard rock band, and a damn good one. So they come in at number 5. Number 4 initially was the band that replaced BTO as my favorite band, and I never listened to anything but them. You've all heard this story, and we all know what's coming. This album is a great representation of why they're a hard rock band. This is Kiss. Now, early on, their albums, if you listen to their studio albums, really hard rock albums. This album's pretty heavy. It's border. There's some borderline metal stuff here. They're dark and sinister and everything. The album cover and the music is really heavy, but I don't ever think of Kiss as a heavy metal band. Definitely a hard rock band. Now, I know they did do some different experimentation in the 80s, with starting out with more poppy stuff and then doing some kind of progressive stuff almost, and then getting off into some kind of almost some grungy stuff, and just did lots of stuff. But to me, they're a hard rock band, and they fit on this category in that number 4 spot. Number 3, maybe the best hard rock band of all time. Certainly the world loves them the most out of all these bands, I think, for hard rock. And they've been consistently hard rock. Yeah, there's some kind of bubblegummy stuff at the beginning, not too much of it, but a little bit of it, but definitely a hard rock band, AC/DC. And I keep using this album because I like this album. But they definitely a number 3 band, a hard rock band, maybe the purest hard rock band of them all, I think. Okay, so number 1 and 2, a bit of a debate I had with putting either of these groups in here. I mean, they both have hard rock elements in their music, and I chose the 2 albums that illustrate that the best. One of them might have borderlined on some metal here. But ultimately, that's why I listened to them. That's what I got into them for, because of their hard elements, and that's why I chose them. So coming in at number 2, Led Zeppelin. Lots of hard rock on this album. And they have hard rock elements on all of their albums, I think. But they also have a lot of blues, some rhythm and blues. So even some country kind of hot doggish rock, what they call it, rockabilly stuff on some of their later stuff, and a lot of kind of synthesizer-driven, borderline prog music, and some. You got some Indian influence in their music, Blues, definitely. Lots of early on, the group was more bluesy. Even some metal elements in their music, quite a bit of them as well. But for the most part, I think of them as a hard rock band. So they had to go in this category, and since as soon as I decided they were a hard rock band, they were the number 2 for sure. Number 1, now I really wasn't going to put these guys in, because a lot of the stuff I listened to from the 60s especially is really borderline hard rock. There's a lot of kind of poppy elements to their music, kind of, yeah, just very bluesy poppy elements to their music. But ultimately my favorite songs by them are all pretty hard rockish. And even though they did more poppy stuff later on, and they're still making albums and still making great albums, not as much hard rock elements to their music as there once was, but enough of it so that I can conclude them. I used this album because this is the album with most of that hard rock stuff on it that I like quite a bit. But again, people are going to argue that this is a very poppy, kind of punky band if you want, but for me, the stuff I like is hard rock. No doubt about that, and so I'm including them here as my number 1 band for hard rock. Okay, so this was a bit of a difficult task to do this, as the progressive rock album one was too, because you're always going to have people that will argue with you about, well, that band shouldn't be included and that band shouldn't be included, and they might be right. But you got to draw a line somewhere. You got to have some albums in there. You can for most of these albums you could draw a reasonable debate as to whether any of these bands belong in it. If I was to go with the fact that if you were just looking for pure rock groups, I think you might only end up with about 6 of them on here. But we got to have a list of 25, not a list of 6, right? So if they had enough hard rock elements, I'd put them on. So I'm just going to reiterate them from this time from top to bottom. So coming in at number 1, The Who. Coming in at number 2, Led Zeppelin. Coming in at number 3, AC/DC. Coming in at number 4, Kiss. Coming in at number 5, Bachman Turner Overdrive, or BTO if you prefer. Coming in at number 6, Rainbow, or Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, however you want to look at it. Coming in at number 7, Van Halen. Coming in at number 8, West Coast Heart. Coming in at number 9, Blue Oyster Cult, or BOC if you prefer them. Coming in at number 10, Deep Purple. Number 11, Ronnie James Dio, or just Dio if you prefer. Coming in at number 12, Whitesnake. Great. Coming in at number 13, Thin Lizzy. This is Phil Lynot's band, of course. Had to get there. So then we do the other stack. Put them up here so we can get to them. So coming in at number 14, Canadian trio Triumph. Number 15, The Sweet. Number 16, Aerosmith. Number 17, Queen. Number 18, Boston. Number 19, I'm using this Clapton, but it actually should be Cream here. Cream, not Clapton. I'm just using this to remind me. Where was I? Number 19, that was Cream. Number 20, April Wine, East Coast band. Number 21, Nazareth, a Scottish band. Number 22, Alice Cooper. Number 23, Hawkwind. And the other two, the last two, number 24, Gatto, Greg Gatto if you prefer, Greg Gottovich if you prefer even more. And number 25, The Toad, or Toad. So those are my top 25 hard rock bands for me, my favorites. Some honorable mentions goes out to Wishbone Ash. Again, could be more of a poppy band, but the stuff I know by them is hard rock, and that's what I like. David Lee Roth, of course, he's all over the map here, so we could call him just about anything. But for this particular thing, I like some of the harder stuff, so I'm going to say that. The Scorpions, of course, lots of hard rock bordering on metal stuff here. MSG, a band. Okay, so now I've got some recent discovered bands that I had no influence, but I wanted to mention them. So one of those bands is the MSG, or Michael Schenker Group. They got some borderline heavy metal stuff. Maybe in the day it was heavy metal, so maybe they don't really belong here, but there's definitely there's some hard rock stuff here as well. So I wanted to give them a mention. And then the two Angel bands that I discovered, one by accident, one on purpose. The Australian version, the Angels, very AC/DC, early AC/DC sounding, and then a lot of their music. Definitely a hard rock band, definitely a good band. And then the other one, the French or from France version of the Angels, and I still don't really understand the connection here, how this band exists or where they come from or how you can even find them on the internet. But I like the album Face to Face, and the music was definitely really hard rock and a lot of metal elements in their music as well. Well, I would say they might even tip the scales into the metal realm. So there you go. Those are the bands that I like from my hard rock bands. Please, if you have comments about anything I've said, please make your comments. You may not necessarily agree with everything, but we're not here to put out a definitive top 25 hard rock groups of all time, and that's it. Everybody has to agree. It doesn't work that way. These are just my particular choices. You may have completely different choices. You may not agree with half the bands I've said on here, but it isn't really that important. The important part is that we're talking about these bands and enjoying their music and recognizing how good it is, and that's, to me, what's important here. And anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. This was one of the ones I found fun to do. A lot funner than a lot of them. Some of them, you gotta kind of do because you feel that those bands need attention, or because you feel that that you enjoy listening to their music, but it's not necessarily easy to do the videos. So, but anyways, this one wasn't one of those. This is a great video. This was great to do this. It was fun to do it. And if you like this, please like and subscribe, as it's much appreciated. And we'll be back next Wednesday night with another favorites. Maybe we'll eventually do this Cheap Trick thing. I keep putting it off for some reason. I don't know why. I find something I want to do more at the last minute, so I end up doing it. So anyways, here we go. Have a good night. Take care. Bye.